Righty, here we go. Welcome, everyone. This is from the Web3 Wealth Builders Group. And we had a little bit of a pivot today. Peter was also going to join us. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. So it's going to be myself. Nick Peterson is here as well. And we are recording this. And so just to kick us off, I wanted to do a few like logistics, nuts and bolts for those of you who will be watching the replay just so everyone knows where to find all the announcements and information and events schedule now. So let me share my screen. There we go. And this is, I'm sure this looks familiar to everyone who's here live. This is the new Web3 Wealth Builders Group. This is a collaboration between a number of different folks, including myself, Peter Voogd, Nick Peterson, Douglas James, as well as a few other like leaders and influencers in the Web3 and crypto space. So just wanted to bring a few things to everyone's attention here. And the first is simply that the calendar tab is where we will be moving forward. We'll be posting a lot of events. Obviously, there's not a whole lot here right now, but as new events start to emerge, this is going to be the one consolidated source that you will want to check on a regular basis. So if you haven't already, go ahead and this link here, I'll just put this in the chat, the schoolhouse. That link there, that is the one to bookmark. Okay, so whether you are watching this live or on the recording, it's that one inside the community. Bookmark that, click the little star if you're using Google Chrome, and you can check back here for all the updates and info. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is the classroom section. I'm sure most of you have already found this. But we've got the 7-day crypto profit accelerator. We've got some replays from Mailbox Money Masterclass sessions that we've done in the past. And then, of course, we have the base case and beyond sessions, which takes the original base case and chill that the Guard Foundation promotes and kind of gives a few other tactics that can be employed to that end. So all of these are going to be some great content that if you haven't already taken a look at it, you'll definitely want to check those out. All right. Um, let's dig in. So here's what I'm going to do. I have a few things in mind that I wanted to share with the group. And then while I'm doing that, if you have any thoughts, any contributions, like Scott on the chat says, hey, created some new Pol USDC positions. Go ahead and post those. Any questions that you have, we can even maybe get a little bit tactical today. Given that we kind of had to pivot and sort of switch gears. The format today is going to be a little looser than usual. So as you're going, go ahead and drop those questions or comments in the chat. And then it's obviously never required, but if anyone is open and willing to turn cameras on, that's always nice for myself as the host, just to know that there we go. Jason, how you doing? Just to know that you're here, you're with me. Marnus, what's going on, the man? There we go. Paul, Jared, here it is. Okay, fantastic. Um, so yeah, let's dig in. First of all, let's address what Scott said here. Obviously, we're talking about mailbox money. I know this is a familiar concept for most of the people on the call today. But just a quick recap. Uh, I'll need to get a new webcam. Yeah, all good, Al. No worries. Just a quick recap. We're talking about conceptually the idea of mailbox money, meaning I'm going to take my crypto assets, I'm going to make them productive rather than unproductive, meaning that by pairing them together, I can become a participant in liquidity pools. And by being a liquidity provider, I'm going to produce some cash flow. And then the big question is, well, what do I do with that cash flow? There are a number of different pathways. And typically, the pathway that I will recommend for folks is you take the cash flow, and that is your opportunity to acquire what we call macro belief, right? So if you are just 100% Bitcoin maxi all the way, I just had a conversation with a client the other day. I mean, he's just, I want more Bitcoin. That's all I want to accumulate. Great. Take all your cash flow from the pairs and just buy Bitcoin forever. Or you might say, hey, I want to acquire a collection of macro belief assets. That could be Bitcoin, Guard, ETH, Solana, whatever the case may be. But the idea is you're taking that base capital and rather than just boop, putting it into the market, you're using it, creating a productive asset, and then using that cash flow in order to acquire what you believe in long term. Okay. So let's talk about what Scott posted over there. So he said he created some new poll USDC positions the other day. This, well, of course, poll, for those of you who don't know, Matic, which was the original native token of the Polygon network, has simply rebranded itself to poll. So if you ever held or looked at Matic in the past, it is now called poll. And basically what Scott is talking about here is the most fundamental and basic pair of them all, which is the network token, in this case, POL, and paired with a stablecoin. There are many forms of this position, right? POL USDC. It could be SOL on the Solana network, SOL USDC. It could be ETH USDT. The point is that there are a number of different options that fit that exact category. So if we take a look at Crystal, I'm just going to move my control panel here. It's getting in my way. Take a look at Crystal. We could say, all right, I'm going to go to, well, I'll start with the Polygon network. And I'm just going to type in poll into the search. It's going to show me all the pairs with that. But up here on the best blue chip pools, here we go. We've got wrapped poll USDC, wrapped poll USDC. We've got link wrapped ETH. That looks good right now. Wow, link and wrapped ETH. Wrapped poll and wrapped ETH. That's going to be another good one. And then poll USDT. So in Scott's case, I don't know which one of these he chose, but if we did a search for poll USDC, we can immediately see, wow, these are paying out a really healthy APR right now. Now, that APR might not last forever and ever, but the point is right now, you've got on QuickSwap these really great options. You can open the positions using Crystal, and you can see the TVL to trade volume. We've got massive trade volume compared to the TVL. So this one in particular, 257K, about 258K, and 3.3 million trade volume. The one right below it, 772,000 with an 8.1 million daily trade volume. So simply put, like this pair right now would be something that myself or anyone really could feel comfortable jumping in on because we're dealing with reliable blue chip crypto assets and they're returning a really healthy APR. So you go 328, it's not going to be 1% a day, but if I pulled out the calculator here, let's do 329 divided by 365. That's like 0.9% per day. So the daily return is almost 1%. And again, we put this into perspective. In crypto, we get used to like, oh my word, I want the 10x, I want the 20x. Here you're talking about fractions of percents, Brandon. But if you could find something that returned 1% a day, that is insanely incredible. I mean, look at the monthly return on that. It would be well over 25% probably on a monthly basis. So you're looking at opportunities that are returning way more than any other asset class or investment vehicle at this time. Even down here, if we wanted to use the Uniswap protocol, we're getting 101% on the return. So the point is, we've got a lot of really cool opportunity right now specifically with these mailbox money opportunities. And Scott, yes, quick swap and Uniswap. So it's not about like, oh, I found one pair in one place and that's the only place I can find it. It's about acknowledging these pairs exist and I can browse using an app like Crystal. Crystal just one of them, but an app like Crystal to find those opportunities and then invest in those. One that I wanted to share, and again, this is just acknowledging, hey, there's dozens, if not hundreds of these at any given time. But I had someone in the mastermind recently bring this one to my attention, which is super cool. Um, XRP and BNB. So if we go to the BNB Smart Chain, I'm just going to type in XRP. And you would expect this because XRP went on its rip recently, right? So all of a sudden, you've got all these new eyeballs on XRP specifically. And using there are opportunities on the XRP, the Ripple network, but there are also places where XRP can be bridged to other chains, in this case, the BNB chain. And we're finding that, like, here's one on Uniswap, XRP wrapped BNB 295%. Here's one XRP and BTCB. That's a Binance pegged Bitcoin. The pool's not huge on that one, so I would say just be cautious. Don't dump 50 grand into a pool that only has 18 grand in it. That might be a little bit risky. But the point is, someone in the mastermind found this pair, set it up with a really narrow range in order to boost that APR. And for a while, they were actually getting close to 900% APR just on that one pair. So again, it's finding assets that I would want to hold anyway that I also still believe in. Because you'll see pairs, if you start browsing around in this world, you'll see pairs that are 4,000, 5,000, 9,000% APR. Well, we know from experience those never last, the APRs never last, and they're incredibly volatile. And typically it will be with like brand new meme coins that just launched. There's a lot of that going on in the Solana network right now. So you'll hear me recommend always, and obviously there are many ways to do this, but you'll hear me recommend always, hey, stick to simplicity. So a smaller portfolio, but with assets that you can trust and assets that you believe in. Meaning, hey, is this project something that is legitimately contributing to the infrastructure of what decentralized finance is becoming? Because this represents new technologies and new projects that are being developed. So naturally, we want to say which types of those projects are going to have other businesses or Web3 things connected to them. And that's the premise here is rather than chasing after more and more and more and more, we pick things that are steady and reliable. And by doing so, okay, maybe I only get 120% APR, but that's just the additional trading fee income on top of any growth and appreciation of the base assets, as well as the growth and appreciation of any assets that I acquire from the cash flow that I've generated by becoming a liquidity provider. So let me pause there. Like I said, I just had a few things in mind to share today. Let's open it up. So, Scott, awesome contribution. If someone has a contribution like Scott, hey, I'm doing this position right now. It's a great forum to drop that in. We've got a few people here live, but obviously people in the Web3 wealth builders are going to be watching this on a replay as well. And you might say, hey, I found a pair on the Solana network. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the return I'm getting. Like, let's hear what's actually happening because I know a lot of people here actually have active positions. And then if anyone has specific questions, maybe about projects that you're holding, maybe about different pairs and opportunities, drop them in the chat. Turn yourself off mute. We got a small group live, so we can have a little more interactive conversation here. But yeah, don't be shy. Cool. Paul, We'll see you soon. Scott, even with the high top end range, the estimated return is 100 USDC per month on a 1,000. I assume that's a $1,000 position. So, yeah, great example. You're talking about you open a position, you can feel good about the reliability of the assets you've paired together, and you're projecting 10% a month. 10% a month is crazy good, considering that most investors are shooting for 8 to 12% per year on average over time. And that would be considered, hey, you're doing very, very well. What else? Thoughts, questions, contributions?
Hey, Brandon, you said we could hop off mute,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, we've got a small group here live, so I figure, we can do some
Yeah.
actual interaction and chat.
Sorry for being late. I missed the updated URL.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said before, Peter was feeling under the weather. It was his link, so we just bounced onto a new link.
cool. That's fair enough, man. Yeah, so I put it in the chat just for record keeping slash the chat transcript for your mastermind and that. But I've been participating in a protocol called Grass, and they're all about decentralizing AI. So there are certain places in the world where AI is restricted, or certain aspects of AI are restricted, and so basically, you can lend out your computing unused bandwidth and computing resources to earn Grass. You can also buy it now. It's launched on the Solana network, but I originally earned all mine for free, so to speak. And then I created LP with that. I'm using a Radium pool because that's where like 99% of their liquidity is. So I'm on Radium and Dex for that. And then because it's a newer token as far as being launched within like the last month, the liquidity has bounced a little bit, but it's stayed healthy over 1 million. I think right now it's about 2.5 million liquidity. Volume is anywhere between about 10 million on the low side to about 35 million on the upper side daily volume.
Okay.
Market cap of anywhere, because the price has fluctuated a little bit. It's gone anywhere from about $1.80 all the way up to about $3.50. I think as of this morning, it was at 275-ish off the top of my head. So price is fluctuating, but I've got a solid range in that. And it's like touched my out of range on the upper realm when Solana peaked the other day. But other than that, I've been doing really, really good with it. And what I like about it is it's got a real world business utility behind it. Like a minute ago, you mentioned the meme stuff. It's not backed by nothing, so to speak. Like there's a
Right.
real
Exactly.
company that's gotten real funding, they're like venture funding, and so they're legit.
Yeah, and that's a strong play too because you've got two very strong narratives right now, which is decentralization. Obviously, that's going to be huge in the coming decades. And then you've got an AI application as well. So good find. I mean, to me, that would be like a really solid play. And I would say at the very least, it's worth everyone taking a look at. You might invest in it, you might not. That's not the point. But rather saying like, hey, let me kind of like get used to exploring what's out there the way that Jason has been doing and finding opportunities that could potentially be a very good investment opportunity. And you'll notice in the chat there about 150% APR. And that you said you're taking a pretty wide range. What range did you select?
Yeah, so when I got airdropped the initial token after my because I did a bunch of quote unquote work for it, for the last 6 months or so. Then they finally launched. So if I'm not mistaken, it was like around $1.80 is when I sold half of what I was given for free to create my LP pair. So
Okay.
at that time, at about $1.80, what I did was I went 100% to the upside and about 50% to the
Yeah,
downside.
that's a really healthy
Um,
range.
yeah, so I have a healthy range. the key to remember, because it's not like Solana with a stable coin, it's two unstable coins. That that 100% is not like 100% of a dollar 80 to the upside. It's 100% of the ratio between Solana and Grass price at that time.
Right. So it'll be
So
even
yeah,
more difficult to fall out of range with two assets like that.
yeah, certainly can be. And so, and then that's basically how I decided to do it. I figured, based upon where I think Solana and Grass, like it could go to zero, right? That's an option. So, but I had seen it steadily increase over the couple weeks that I had been watching it without doing the LP, and I was like, okay, I think this is going to stick around. So,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's a great example of like, hey, in these sessions, yeah, you can come and receive and get information, but it's also a great forum to contribute and to share some investment opportunities that you've been involved in as well. Scott, PGN liquidity on Radium. Yes, as many of you know, Paragon, I've personally been very vocal about Paragon as what I think is a really good investment opportunity. They have already launched their auto trading bot. So Paragon was originally developed by some of you maybe know Mario. He has been running his Moonshot Mastermind for I think 3.5, maybe almost 4 years at this point. And he's been a really active player in the space. And he is like literally he's the math genius. Like he knows when it comes to day trading and getting quick profits out of crypto. The opposite of my approach over here, but I can acknowledge that what he does works and it works really, really well. And so he took all of that knowledge and created some algorithmic parameters and launched a trading bot. And the trading bot, the only way you get access to it is by holding the PGN, the Paragon token. So what he's done is said, I'm going to create a utility and then I'm going to token gate access to that utility. So anyone who wants the access to the bot has to hold at least 100,000 Paragon. Anyone who wants access to the automatic trading bot, you have to be in the lion's den, which is to hold 1 million or more Paragon tokens. So he's created incentive for people to buy a token and then hold it long, long, long term. Because if they hold it long, long term, they'll get access to all these other really amazing utilities that allow them to earn even more from the process of using that algorithmic trading bot. So, again, is that a guarantee a project will succeed? No, of course not. But it's a pretty strong indicator that there's something behind it rather than just being like an empty token that you just trade for the sake of trading. So yeah, on Radium and with Paragon specifically, I do believe it's a V2 position right now. I don't think there's any pools for V3 for concentrated liquidity. But that would be another one where you go, hey, let me get some Paragon, let me get some Sol. And with V2 liquidity, you pair it, and it's literally like just leave it there, check on it once a month. If you're curious, you wouldn't even really need to check on it, probably, because it's an infinite range. You will never fall out of range. And yeah, the APR might be lower by crypto standards than some of these other ones we're talking about. But again, that's okay because you're going to get the APR and you are going to acquire more Paragon and Sol from those trading fees that are generated. And it's been moving, sideways-ish for a while. I think once the bull run like really heats up, it's highly likely that we're going to see tokens like that pump along with the rest of the market. And Radium, yes. Jason, go ahead, man. Yeah.
yeah, not to hijack the
Oh,
conversation,
go for
but
it. Yeah.
I have
I'd love you to
perspective in
jump
the
in.
sense that I'm in both. Like, meaning I own Paragon. I'm in not his top tier, but I'm in his next tier where you get access to the trading information. Um, and then of course, the liquidity provision side of things as well. And then interestingly, I sit in the middle where I actually trade like equities and options and all that kind of stuff. So of the three, the most peaceful for certain is providing liquidity. It's
Yeah,
like it's like I don't know, you've probably used this example before, being a landlord without having to mess with tenants or property management companies,
exactly. Yep.
all that kind of crazy stuff. So um I much more enjoy the level-headedness of just providing liquidity on some key pairs like this versus kind of the chaotic nature of uh, some of the meme coins and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. So, anyways, just given that perspective that there's room for all types of players. Being in all three for me, man, just chillaxing's nice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's the premise of originally the base case in Chill that was taught by Nick Peterson, and it was called the Wolf Den originally. Now it's the Guardian Academy. And by the way, if anyone is unfamiliar with the Guardian Academy, you can reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. There is an unofficial Facebook group, but basically it's just a really cool community of people that are approaching investing and business and life from a certain set of foundational principles. And that's really critical that, like, hey, we got the principle and we can apply that principle to different categories of living, of which investing is one of them. Because let's face it, we're all irrational creatures at times, most of the times, and it's nice to have some perspective, especially when it comes to investing, because investing is a highly emotional game, and most people don't want to admit that. I know I didn't at first, but when we let our, some people call it the system one versus system two thinking, sort of like the impulse versus logical, careful thinking, um, it can be easy to jump into things that we would otherwise not have jumped into. So anyway, all that to say, if you're unfamiliar with the Guardian Academy, just hit me up in the school group. Like, you can send direct messages inside of school. Just hit me up and let me know, and I can connect you with that community. And by the way, it's not my thing. I'm just a part of it. So I worked my way up to what they call the Guardian tier. It's confusing because there's the Guardian token and then there's a Guardian tier inside of the Guardian Academy. But the point is, it's a wonderful community of which I'm just a part of it. I'm a contributor to it now. So I don't get anything by promoting it. I'm just saying, like, hey, this is a cool thing. You should probably check it out. I just got back from their yearly event, the Gray Wolf Summit, which was in Tempe, Arizona. And again, it wasn't like a crypto-centric event necessarily, but many of the investors and business owners and aspiring business owners who were there, they also are invested in crypto. So I got to have a lot of really cool conversations about some things that are happening in the market, as well as some things that are happening behind the scenes, specifically with Guard, the token. So we'll be kind of unraveling those and revealing those over the course of the next couple of months. But it's really exciting times because a lot of the stuff that you've been hearing about, oh, it's in process, people are working on this and that, people are building on Guard. It's real world businesses and it takes time. But over the course of the next few months, we're going to start to be able to hear more about those and what's really happening behind the scenes. So the folks who are invested in Guard now are going to be able to take advantage of the extremely low price because as things get revealed, as we know, what happens is people who are just watching and waiting, they're waiting for the chart rather than evaluating what's really behind that price action. And that's good for us as early investors, myself included. Guardian tier gives amazing access to people on a weekly basis, very valuable. Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of the point of the Guardian Academy and the Guardian tier in general is that exposure, proximity, access. We continually use that phrase, that principle here, because yes, you can get information. Information's power. It's great, but ultimately, being connected with the right people and the right communities is what will allow us to grow and evolve past where we are now, including portfolio value. Fun buying at 3 cents. Yes. Scott, you got in like really early, I think, probably like right after Guard launched. If you got it at 3 cents, that was a good call. So yeah, what else? Questions, thoughts, any contributions? Marnus, you look like you're trying to find the unmute button.
Yeah, no, sorry. Let me just speak, not type. I'm having to hide away. Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, actually, Brandon, still learning a lot, and I think there's an aspect of learning from you guys and hearing what you say, and then there's that aspect where I almost need to hit my head for myself in buying the wrong coins because I think something that I'm learning a lot is this whole aspect. I think you mentioned earlier about making sound judgment
Mhm.
versus jumping to something that's exciting. I think for myself, it's still a new space. I'm learning, quite excited, but it's a big shift for me to really just stay level headed. So I'm really thankful for a community, and especially knowing you for a long time, someone that I can trust and rely to be level-headed, to give the good advice. And yeah, just a little bit of that said. But I wanted to get your take on, what's happening in the market now. I think I left the room a little bit earlier, but you mentioned something about um, how well, let me put the question this way: how long do we see this bull run going, and you think it hasn't necessarily peaked yet?
Yeah, so I can give my opinion, and then I would actually encourage anyone else who's here to give their perspective as well. At the end of the day, I'm just one guy looking at the market, and I can make some sort of generalizations. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be right 100% of the time, and as we've seen time and time again, the market often does things that we don't expect based on who knows what other world events and variables that are outside of our control. But I can say that in general, it's very likely that we see a trend upward in the market through 2025. Now, what that usually means, though, and I'm going to go back historically, and you've probably seen little like cards and memes around that talk about there's generally like four phases where it's like Bitcoin pumps, and then people go, oh my God, Bitcoin, it went over 100K already. It's probably going to keep going. It might retrace a little bit. No big deal. Bitcoin pumps. And then usually Ethereum follows that because people will take all their profits, scalp off some profits from Bitcoin, pump it into Ethereum. Then typically after that, there's what they call altcoin season, which is all the other major projects, the altcoins. And then usually coming in fourth are all the big meme coin pumps. Okay. So it doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly like that this time around, but in all likelihood, you will probably see that general trend play itself out once more over the course of 2025. Now, being that we have historical precedents for those assumptions, it is possible that the timeline gets skewed because everybody is operating under the same assumptions. That tends to be what the market does, right? Whether it's traditional market or crypto market or any market, it's like once enough people are looking at it and think they have an idea of how it works, then the rules start to change a little bit. So that could mean that the timing is off a little bit. Whether that means a shorter run or a slightly longer run, I couldn't tell you, but I would say just kind of keep your ears to the ground, take a look at what Bitcoin does, like take a look at its actions, and then count on there being some sort of trickle down effect into ETH altcoins and meme coins at some point.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. That's helpful.
Yeah. But anyone else have some perspective? I know we've got some longtime crypto investors in here. Anybody else want to share some perspective?
Yeah, I would speaking to is it Marnus? Is that how you say it? Or close enough?
Yeah, it's Marnus. Yeah, it's like
Marnus,
Marcus
Marnus,
with
sorry.
an N. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So something I've personally learned, even really before I was involved with the Guardian Academy and met Brandon and stuff like that, was the idea of what is a macro belief when it comes to investing. Like some people believe in collectible cars. Some people, so they just want to acquire more collectible cars. Some people want to you know, collect doors on houses, rental properties, right? Some people want to collect Bitcoin. And so when it comes to the quote unquote macro markets, what are the major companies that you're interested in and don't really care about the price versus what are the like, and so translating that to crypto, like maybe I care about the price of Bitcoin because I just want to trade it, or maybe I don't care about the price of Bitcoin because I just want to acquire more of it, and ultimately I want to acquire as much as I can at a lower price. And maybe I do want to reduce risk by taking some profits at the top, like Brandon suggested. But still, if I did not sell at the top, do I care? No, because I have a long-term belief in Bitcoin. And so I would take that kind of idea. Your belief does not have to be in Bitcoin. I'm just using that as the example. What is it that you want to ultimately acquire? And then you really just kind of focus on what are the things I can do to create cash flow to acquire more of that thing that I want long term. So, like tying it back into liquidity provision, and even day trading in the equities market, et cetera. I do all that strictly for cash flow to parlay a certain ratio of profit into acquiring more what I want. And that might be more vacations with my family, or it might be, whatever, more Bitcoin or something like that. So before like someone worries or concerns themselves with what does the next 12 months look like, I would ask myself the question, do I even need to worry what the next 12 months looks like when it comes to the crypto world because of what I'm actually trying to accomplish and trying to do? Does that make sense? I may not be explaining it clearly, but
Yeah, no, that's a good explanation, right? The principle would be if I'm planning on just acquiring macro belief for the next 10 years anyway, I might be DCAing into something regardless of what the chart action does. So you can be aware of the market, but it might not, depending on your personal preference, it might not be a variable in how or when you acquire macro belief.
That's good. I think so. What I take from that is almost like crypto aside, almost have your strategy fixed about what do you want to get out of it. And I think
Exactly.
don't just play in the arena for the sake of playing the arena, because I think that's where the danger comes. Um, it's almost like I have that clear, defined strategy for yourself, and stick to your own rules. as hard
Yeah.
as it
Yeah.
as hard as it seems.
Cool. So let's do this because we got a few minutes left. Let's do 6 word update. And for those of you, I think a lot of you know what this is. But for those of you who aren't sure, 6 word update just means consolidate whatever takeaway or learning or aha moment you had just from this session. It could be review too. It could be something you already knew, but you got reminded of. It could be something brand new that you're like, oh my word, I never thought of it that way before. And in the chat, consolidate it down to 6 words, no more, no less. So a nice little concise, this is my takeaway. This is what I learned. This is what I would share with someone else if I was teaching them about XYZ, whatever it might be. Drop that into the chat because it forces your brain to consolidate what you just learned and then to clearly articulate it. And when you do that, retention of those principles goes up exponentially. So rather than just sitting and absorbing and going, huh, that was nice, like now it's the time to become an active participant. So, yeah, this is a great example. So, Jason's 6 word update, macro belief trumps daily chart watching. That's great. You can take something that you said in the session and put it into 6 words, and that's awesome because now anyone who's watching this goes, "Oh, macro belief trumps daily chart watching." Someone else can take that away and go, "Yes, that I can remember that." And the idea is the 6 word update kind of prompts that remembrance of whatever principle or learning that it was. So go ahead and drop those in the chat, everyone. I know some of you just joined us here right now. That's totally fine. Your 6 word update could just be whatever you've been thinking about related to the markets lately. Ow, DeFi and chill is my pill. That's great. I love it, Al. DeFi and chill is my pill. That's my drug of choice. Jared, consistent, unemotional action gets you through. Yes, 100%. Consistent, unemotional action gets you through. And by the way, I'm saying them more than once because when you watch the replay, you won't be able to see the chat. Thomas, exposure, exposure, exposure wins every time. Yeah, good one. Thomas, do you want to tell us what you mean by that? Because I know I saw you just jumped in here.
Well, I'm happy to. I think my headphones aren't working correctly though. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, can you still hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I guess combination of things here. Yeah, exposure, meaning that we have to be willing to be uncomfortable in situations because we never know what we're going to gain from that, whether that's people, whether that's information, and even places. Kind of that 1, 2, 3 punch of as I gave it right there. I was fortunate enough to be able to hang out with Brandon and a bunch of others this last weekend, and it's just an example of exposure that has uh, kind of gave me my task list moving forward for the next period of time to get me closer to the things that are important to me.
Nice. Yeah. Exposure, exposure, exposure wins every time. Love it. Scott, proper pruning increases wealth, health, and serenity. That's a good one, Scott. That's really good. Proper pruning. Love that. Um, are you able, do you have your microphone? Are you able to share what proper pruning means to you? What you mean by that? All right, no worries if not. It's still a good 6 word update either way.
Hold on, can
Jason.
you hear
Oh, there
me?
we go. Yep, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Clicking the thing is more difficult than what I thought. Anyhow, uh, attribute that one to Jason Campbell over the weekend,
Mm,
and and with the swords and everything like that. It just kind of hit really really hard. That hey, there are certain things you just need to cut out of your life,
yeah.
and for a lot of different reasons in a lot of different ways, and some of them are good things, but you still they don't really belong in your life.
That's good. And as with many 6 word updates, individuals will take different ideas from it. And when I hear that proper pruning, it makes me think about like, yeah, when I simplified my investment approach, which was the mailbox money approach that I teach now, when I simplified that, I started winning on a more regular, consistent basis. So it was actually me cutting out certain approaches and saying I'm just going to focus on the one thing. And I see that happening in my mastermind all the time as well. People have these portfolios with wild and crazy stuff, and they go, you know what? Let me actually simplify this and consolidate it down. And immediately overnight, they start making more money from the process. Okay, Jason, create your personal strategy to win. Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, that's what it is, right? I present what I do. That's cool. You don't have to do it exactly like I do, but you might have a personal approach. And if you still have something that works for you and it's simplified and you know it's what vibes with your lifestyle, you're going to win because winning is not just maximum returns, winning usually means a lot more than that. Jason, oh, you already left, but okay, thanks, Jason. Jason had to go. David, practicing restraint, I'm positioned well. Nice. Yeah, David, feel free to, if you have it available, to throw yourself off mute and maybe share a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Sure, I have a couple of minutes. Good to see you all. Um, yeah, I think it's just noticing the impulse to take more risk or to put more capital into conviction projects and just observing where it's coming from and discerning whether it's actually uh, like it creates more risk and it puts me in a position where I'm maybe more dependent on a certain timeline.
Yep.
Or where it actually makes sense and where um, I can deploy capital and have clear strategies where I can sort of let go of any kind of timeline. Yeah, and so for me to practice to remind myself, like even if I haven't gotten the best price for each project that I'm invested in, I'm positioned really well. And um, yeah, like that maybe trying to outsmart the market and like get in at the best moment, quote unquote, um, yeah, might not actually be the smartest thing. So just practicing restraint and being like, hey, if things play out the way that they're likely to play out, I'm fine.
Yep. Yeah, powerful stuff. Practicing restraint.
Hmm.
We don't always think that is the path to positioning ourselves, but as you pointed out, it often is. In fact, probably most of the time it is. Marnus, Brandon says 2025 going to pump. Well, great. Now it has to happen, or I'm an idiot. Thanks for the stress and pressure, Marnus.
It's recorded now,
Yeah,
Brandon.
it's recorded now. It's forever documented. W, try new things, do it now. Yes, sir. You got it. And these opportunities in Web3, it's just great examples. The folks like, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? But like the folks who are willing to invest in an asset class before it has become adopted by the masses, you're trying new things. You're doing it now, and long term, um, that willingness to try new things and do it now is going to be what takes us all to the next level. Thomas, that's either gotta go or guard your guard.
Or both.
Or both. Yep, guard your guard.
Brandon, did you share any project updates earlier in the call? Do I need to catch the recording?
You can catch the recording. I did. Were you the one who asked about MGGA?
No, but
Okay, cool.
now
Well,
that we're talking about it,
I was just gonna say, I don't know anything about that project.
uh,
Originally, when we had said project updates, it was because Peter was going to be on this call as well, and I think he had a few things in mind that he was going to share. But we pushed that call back out to Monday after the holiday weekend, so we'll still have an opportunity to do that.
cool.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. We're coming up on the top of the hour. If anyone wants to, ask questions, participate, chat, whatever, that's what the new school group is going to be for. That's going to be, like I said before, the consolidated place. It is a joint effort. None of us really like own the group per se. It's just that you'll see myself, you'll see Peter, you'll see Nick, you'll see Douglas James, you'll see a few other people participating and contributing. Originally, we wanted to create a place where everybody can get the announcements, updates, and information that they need and want. And we'll continue to have sessions like this. And again, they're not meant to be, hey, us from the top down just preaching at you. There will be some training and guidance and education for sure, but I think the most value is going to come from this like interaction and contribution from the community. So, all that said, thank you everyone for participating, and I'll get the replay posted in the school group after it's done, rendering and processing and uploading and all that good stuff. So, all right.
Brandon, could I ask one last
Oh,
question?
yeah, go ahead, David.
Awesome. So I have been getting into yield farming the last few weeks. We've interacted in the Guard chat.
Mhm.
And I recently realized that I live in Austria and I'm being taxed twice for yield farming, meaning I'm being taxed for the yield itself. And then when I convert it into fiat, I'm being taxed again.
Mm.
And so it just made me think about uh, how much more does this strategy need to outperform, for example, just holding some SOL and selling it to I don't know, justify that this makes more sense. Do you have any thoughts on that? I've been trying to
Yes.
calculate stuff and
I mean, I couldn't give you an exact number, being
Mhm.
that I definitely don't know tax code for Austria.
Yeah.
But in general, and this is just my opinion, in general, I'm never opposed to paying a little more in tax if the pathway that got me there was I made more. So if I
Mhm.
profit more from the market and because of that I have to pay a little more tax, me personally, I'm always okay with that because I end up with more total in my pocket afterwards.
Hey, David, I'm not a tax expert either, but can you clarify what you said? Wouldn't, if you had Sol and you sold it to fiat versus whatever token you earned and sold it to fiat from yield farming,
Yeah.
that's still that same action is going to be taxed irregardless of where it came from, correct?
Yeah, but so if I just hold SOL and sell it off, I get taxed once, and this is 27.5%. And if I do the yield farming, I pay tax on the yield itself, and then if I ever sell it, I get taxed again. So then I was thinking, well, uh, obviously there's some impermanent loss with the yield farming where I don't have the full upside to, let's say, SOL appreciating in value. So then my thinking was, okay, well, does that mean that, that it makes things actually more complicated and it might be the simpler solution to just hold uh a couple of altcoins that I believe in and sell them off. But I'm still not fully clear on it. Like if you tell me, well, you're just being taxed on actual yield profits, and I don't need to worry about sort of comparing those two routes. I'm happy about that. It just kind of created a knot in my mind after getting really excited about creating Mailbox money.
Yeah, so in my head, the way I look at it is similar to what you just explained, that I'm going to have an asset, whether I have the asset by itself, what I might term as, just holding naked soul by itself
Hmm.
versus pairing soul. If my time horizon is long enough, impermanent loss is not an issue for me personally, especially if I have a longer, especially if it's in a token such as Soul that probably has a fair amount of runway to go over the next 5 to 10 years, right? It's not a meme token that's going to live an hour or a year. It's going to be more than likely around 5 years from now. Okay.
Yeah,
So in that case, I don't think you were on way earlier. I had mentioned like buying a house, right? Like if I were to buy a house and do rental, I'm going to have to pay taxes when I sell that house, but I'm also going to have to pay taxes whenever I collect the rent every
yeah,
single month, right?
yeah.
So it's the exact same way I look at it in my brain.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of what's the most efficient path forward. Is me buying a rental property more efficient, or my personality and what I'm interested in, et cetera, is providing liquidity more effective and more efficient. So
Hmm.
that's how I kind of look at it. If hopefully I'm answering your question.
Yeah, and I hate to cut this short, but I've got another call here in like 2 minutes, so I got to bounce. But David, I think probably the big picture solution is we can connect you with, I don't know if you know Matty Dubs.
Yeah,
He's got a business called Crypto Tax Made Easy.
yeah,
He'll be able to like actually sit down with you and
nice,
work out the all the little nitty-gritty details and the numbers and everything.
awesome,
So I think
cool.
long term, that's probably going to be the solution is, like we were saying before, get connected with the right people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thank you, Jason, for your thoughts as well.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.